or the program which is stored in the memory, process it, that is execute the instructions. So that is, there are so many jobs involved, like saving those whatever the program and getting it executing, and there are some. So whenever I'm executing any program, there are certain specific roles involved with the system. Something like we are storing, there is a storage, there is a data on what the instruction is executing. It's on a specific data. So where do we get the data? Data is saved in the memory. There is a memory wherein you have the data stored, and the main purpose of any processing system is there is a storage, control, and also you need to know what are the resources are used for the execution. Who is going to manage those things? Okay. So there is somebody who is managing all the resources. Okay. So that is the operating system. So the operating system, which is responsible for the getting the instructions. I mean, don't misunderstood saying that, say for example, a simple processor. You must have studied some of the processor where you may not need any operating system, but still it is fetching the instruction, it is executing the instructions, etc. But here, the point here is, it is not the simple way wherein I am running any code so that it can execute it sequentially one after the other and give me the result. Okay. So there is something like we have to have some sort of a multiple applications running. Okay. So embedded system, it is running on it is meant for a single application. Even though I say single application, for example, when I talk about mobile, there are different, I mean, at a time, I can use different applications. Maybe I can listen music, I can do something, I can text simultaneously. There are, so you're switching from one, what do you call, one process to another process. Okay. So who is going to switch from the different process? Okay. So those things are taken care by the operating system. Okay. So let us see the characteristics of operating system. So in embedded operating system, we need to have real-time operations. So the meaning of real-time operation in the sense, it needs to meet the deadline. Okay. So the crucial point is meeting the deadline. So it has to meet the deadline, that is the correctness. So the time at which the result is delivered. So maybe I give some certain data and it is processing on those data, and when do I get the results? When I'm supposed to get the results. So the operating system is whatever it is using certain algorithms, nothing but a set of instructions or a program. Okay. It is meant for executing your program, application code. Suppose, for example, I'm driving a car and there is a brake control. So as soon as I apply the brake, it should give me the response immediately, quickly. It should stop. That should give a control to the actuator, which is nothing but your wheels, and the wheels should stop. Okay, so in the sense, if I apply the brake and if after another hour or something there is an actuator functioning, there is no point in having that particular process or the task which I am supposed to. So what I mean here is the timing is crucial here, the real-time operations. Okay, so when I talk about real-time operation, nothing but meeting the deadlines. So deadline is crucial here in most of the embedded operating system. That is the correctness. Okay, so by when I want the results neither too late nor too early. I don't want both the cases. So don't expect me to give the results before what I'm supposed to. Okay, so it may not give me the proper the result which I'm expecting. Okay, so there is a correctness and the reactive operation. It needs to consider the worst case conditions. Okay, so in order to respond to external events. So based on the different situations, okay, and it should give me the right output in the different situations. Okay, so maybe too cold or too hot, whatever. In the different situations, we need to. I mean, we find out how we can predict the results. And also there is a configurability. That is supports flexible configuration so that you can, for a specific application and hardware suit is provided. I mean, you can configure, I mean, different, you can add or you can delete something. So it is not that always the operating system, whatever we design, it should have a feature of adding something or deleting something so that I can use it for a particular system. So you can load or load the specific modules. There is a support of modularity in the operating system. Also, there is a I/O device flexibility. As we know that the different systems will have different input outputs, and each input output may have different control registers or the control functions. Okay, so maybe you must have gone through different hardware in your microprocessor codes in the display devices, or if you consider some input devices, maybe your keyboard, or you can consider an ADC as an example. So each input output device has got its own control signals, control registers, etc., etc. So we need to add the certain the features, which is, I mean, whatever the device drivers for the particular hardware which I am using. So the one of the characteristics is handle the devices by using special tasks. Okay, so we can add certain special tasks instead of integrating their drives into the kernel. Okay. You can include, you can add. There is a feature for adding certain input output. I mean, drivers for the same. And you can have some sort of a protections. So there is a need of protections. So something like you have a system software, application software. So straight away I cannot access the system software. There should be some means of accessing the system software. And there is a direct use of interrupts. In the embedded operating system, it permits user process to use interrupts. Whatever the process used by the user, the application user, can use the interrupts. I mean, you no need to go through the operating system interrupt service routines. Straight away, directly you can use the interrupts. And also there is an efficient control over the variety of devices. You can have a variety of devices which can be controlled. Just a sec. Okay, I'm sorry. So these are the characteristics of embedded operating systems. Now, why do we need, I mean, what is the advantage of having the operating system? Anyway, in another lecture, I'll be showing that what is the advantage of having the operating system. So the operating system, I mean, the main objective of operating system is to make the user convenient. Okay, so it should be, I mean, as we know that, say, what is a computer system? It has got a hardware and a software, in a simple terms, if I say. So nowadays, we can see that a layman or the person who is not able to read the text, so he or she is able to use the mobile system. Okay, so that is the, I mean, the beauty or the technology change we can notice. So there is a hardware and a software. You are typing something, you are using the input output systems to give certain instructions to the system, and it will do that particular job. What is there in the system? The hardware, there is a processor. Processor is also one of the resource. You have a processor, you have the memories, maybe there are certain other input outputs. Maybe you have some camera. Okay. So there are so many, I mean, maybe there is audio inputs. You can do so many things. So if I talk about your the general purpose system, there is a mouse, keyboard, and maybe you can have so many control through your file management, etc., etc. So the user need not know what is, I mean, how the processor is running or processor is able to understand, right? So you are giving something and it is made to do that particular job. Maybe I'm using some application, maybe I'm using some WhatsApp, I'm texting something, or I may send some pictures. Okay, so it is doing that particular job, for which I need not know that how the processor is functioning on those, right? So what I mean here is the operating system make the user very convenient. If you are asked to write whatever the code using the way in which the processor is able to understand, then it would have been very difficult, right? Say you are asked to write because as we know that processor is able to understand only the machine code. Only the machine code it is able to understand. It is in the binary patterns. You have some binary patterns, and those are already pre-coded, and You call it as a set of instructions, you decode it, encode it, whatever, right? So supposing you are given to write the program using the way in which the processor is able to understand, something like maybe the one which you have understood in your earlier semester, maybe you must have done some assembly coding. It's again a bit improvement, in the sense I need not write any machine code, right? So we are fortunate that there is something I need not know how exactly the processor is able to understand, and I am running some applications. The user is simply giving something or getting the things done. Okay, so the operating system makes the system very convenient. So, for example, if I talk about desktop also, I open some application, maybe Windows, Word. I open the Word and write something, and I can ask, I can use some certain, I can delete, I can edit, I can add some table, I can do so many things. So there is a provision, it is made the user ease. So very convenient to use. So that is the main, the objective. The objective of the operating system is to make the user very convenient. Okay. Then it also makes the computer system resources to be used in an efficient manner. I need to use the system in a very efficient way. Okay. How the processor is utilized. Okay. Whether I'm able to efficiently utilize the processor, or I'm making most of the time idle. So maybe what I mean is, maybe in most of the cases, if I'm talking about some of the applications, I need to know that how efficiently I'm using the resources. Okay, resource usage. Please note that resource, processor is also one of the resource. Okay, processor is also one of the resource. You can have the memories, and maybe you can have printers, you can have various resources. And the next objective of operating system should be constructed in such a way that permit the effective development, testing, and you should be, there should be a way in which I can evolve, I can add something, keep on update. Okay, so you can include certain new system functions, so without interfering with the service. Okay. So those things you can do it. So maybe I want to, for example, I want to do something with the specific hardware. Maybe I need some certain software systems, the application software. I can install it. It will not disturb my regular feature, whatever I'm using it. Okay. So that way, it should support. Okay. So these are maybe in brief the objective of the operating system. So if you look at this diagram, the layers of operating system. So I'm sitting here, the end user, right? So end user, and there is a hardware. Okay, so there's a hardware. So there are some application programs which are already there, which are installed, and the programmer is using certain utilities and the operating system. Okay. So what I mean here is, So you have some program, I mean some application code which is running on the computer hardware. Correct. It is running on the computer hardware. Maybe I'm using some any. For example, I'm writing some. I'm using Word. Maybe I'm using some PPT. For example, I've edited. I'm using it. I want to edit something. Add some pictures or whatever. Okay. So these things are done in relation with. I mean, it is running on a particular system. Correct. So maybe I'm talking about the Teams itself. It's an application, right? Which I have installed here, and I would be able to see some of the functionalities of the particular tool or the software which I have used. So it's running on a computer hardware. It is controlling the program controls the application. I mean, it is controlling my application program, okay, on the hardware. So there is some set of utilities, okay. So you have the computer hardware, okay. There is a hardware, and you have a set of programs. So there are certain system programs need to be installed so that I can run my application code, which you call it as utilities. Okay, so these utilities, they have some functions. They assist in program creation and management of files and control of your I/O devices. Something like I have a file management, I can do some. So then those are called as utilities. I just have to see that what are the, if I know a little bit about looking at what are the file managing and some of the basic functions, we can have it through the utilities. These are called it will control your I/O devices. Maybe I can see the USB, the mouse which is connected through, if it is USB or through wireless, anything. So which I am talking about. So we can check in my system itself whether, say if I open my mobile, there are something like a settings wherein I can see whether I'm using the Bluetooth. So those things are, which will come under your utilities. There is an operating system. So normally we say that it's a kernel. Operating system is a kernel. It's a mediator between the user program and the computer hardware. It's a mediator between the application program and the computer hardware. It's a layer in between. So the operating system, which is, it's an interface or a mediator with the programmer and the application code. So it is mainly using, it is supporting various services. In a simple terms, if I say, it is supporting for development of your program development. That is, say if I use any editor, maybe Word editor or anything, maybe Excel. So I need to develop any program, variety of facilities, editor, debugging. Okay, so you can create any programs. So they are in the form of your utility programs. So they are not. It may not be part of the core of the operating system, but it is supporting. Then program execution. So it needs to execute. Whenever I say executing, it needs certain input outputs. It needs certain input output for the execution. Then it needs to access certain I/O devices. So controlled, you can have a controlled access or access to files, access of I/O devices. So when I say access of I/O device, it needs its own specific set of instructions or control signals for operation. So it provides some set of uniform interface. So it's hidden. Basically, you will get certain interface for the I/O devices, and you have a controlled access to files. That is, this should include understanding of nature of I/O devices, files, disk, tape drives, or if you're using some, say, pen drives, etc. So what type of files you're using. And also it needs to know certain, services like system access. This, the whatever the service I'm giving in a very simple terms. You have certain system access. That is, uh, say if I have to use some certain resources, the memories, maybe whenever I'm using some system memory, there should be some sort of a protection involved, memory protection, okay, privileged access, what you call it. So these are, memory management or the memory protections, etc. Then also we have error detection and response. There could be some errors whenever we run any program. Like maybe I am trying to access some area which is may not be existing, or you try to type something, uh, the instructions or anything which is maybe may not be existing, due to which there could be some error. Maybe you try to put some escape. So there are certain errors and how it is able to respond to those. And finally, we have accounting, the service provided by the operating system. That is the usage statistics of various resources. Okay, so maybe if I'm using, say for example, in simple way, if I say I'm maybe my postpaid or prepaid or something, whatever. So it will give you the information about whether the data is completely used and what is the amount you have, the charge for the particular data usage. So all these things. These detailing, that is taken care of, the accounting information, but is how much data you've used and what is the the expense or the rate on which the data you have used. So those things are taken care by the operating system. Okay. So far, whatever I have discussed, if you have got anything or any point to be highlighted or discuss, please, you can raise your hand or you can ask. So the same thing, whatever I have discussed, given in detailed or a briefing. Anything? Hello?
No, ma'am.
Because if I go on monotonous, today it is a theory basically. So whatever I have discussed, the same thing given in the, okay. So the operating system, you can call it as a resource manager. Okay. So it has to manage various resources. Mainly, it is responsible for movement of data movement. I need to give some data. I'm typing. I'm giving some instructions. So there is a movement of data. It may be written somewhere. It is writing my instruction or the data in some locations. So there is a storage, and also you have a processing of data, and also there is a control of the various functions. Okay. So a computer is a set of resources for movement, storage, processing of data and control of all these functions. You need to do the main simple term. It has to do this. You consider any application or anything. Ultimately, there should be some instruction or data given, and it needs to store somewhere, and it has to process it, and process in the sense it needs to know where the data is available for a particular for which I'm instructing it to do, and you need to control some set of functions. Maybe I need to control my mouse, for example. I need to know that, okay, so it needs to click and go to the particular location. So anything, it has to control. The operating system is responsible for managing all the resources. It could be your memory, it could be a processor, it could be your external devices, resources, external peripherals like your mouse, printers, or any disk drivers, or it could be anything. Maybe I'm using some cameras. So it needs to manage these resources. So the operating system functions in the same way as your ordinary computer software. So what is an operating system? It's a set of instruction or a program. As we aware that any program, it will be written in a specific location. There will be a program counter. Program counter will have the address of the instruction to be executed, and you fetch that and execute exactly in the same way it is run. But here you call it as the particular program, you call it as a process. You have a set of process. So there is an application program, and in the operating system, we consider as there is a piece of code or the program which is written, which has got some scheduling algorithms, and maybe you have got some dispatcher which process needs to get a chance by the processor to execute. See, ultimately, any system, say suppose I'm talking about, say, uniprocessor system. It has got only one processor. There are multi-processor anyway, there is a different issue. So if I'm using some uniprocessor system, there is a single processor, and the processor needs to execute whatever the program we have given, right? So if you imagine the one which I have shown, there is your application software, and there is a utilities, or next to that there is a operating system, and then comes your hardware. The program which I am writing in the application, it should function by the hardware, for which there is a operating system which is managing the role, so that it can fill the gap between your application code and the hardware, which. So there is an operating system which is nothing but it's a ordinary program. It functions in a similar way as your normal programming, how you have done. So also it frequently relinquishes control and depend on the processor to allow it regain control. It can do that. It can leave the control. You can lose the control over the particular program, and later it can get dead. So this is just to show the resource manager. So the picture shows the resource manager. So this includes kernel. It's nothing but your. It is a nucleus. I mean, it is in between your hardware and the software. So the portion of the operating system is in the main memory. It is in the main memory, which includes your kernel. So this contains most frequently used functions in the operating system at a given time. Okay. So other portions of the operating system which are currently in use can also be there in the operating system. So the remaining part of the main memory contains other user programs and data. Okay. So what I mean here is you have the operating system is part of your memory, and you can the program which is there about the operating system, you call it as a kernel, and you have the additional space which is used for your the other functions. Okay. So the various allocation of resources is controlled by the operating system as well as your memory management system. Okay. So operating system which decides when an IO device can be used by the program in execution and controls access to and use of files. So everything is decided by the operating system. Means it takes care of file management, then the IO management, time management. If you talk about real-time operating system, the time management is additional feature which very crucial. Okay. So there are different resources. I mean the services or whatever resources need to be managed by the operating system. If you look at this, there is a memory, operating system software, program and data. So if you have a multiple processor, it's a different issue. If you have a single processor at a time, whatever the program, it needs to run sequentially, and even though there is a single processor, it gives you a feel that it is running multiple applications or the multiple processing or multitasking. So that is, taken care by the operating system. You have set of input outputs. There is an input output controllers. Okay. So this is the operating system which decides when an IO device can be used by a program in execution and also controls. Okay. So when do I have to use the specific input output device? So this is about the history of operating system. We need to know a little bit. Let us go fast. The major versions of Unix developed System V and from AT&T and Berkeley Systems in 1977 in the University of California at Berkeley. So you can see that that evolution of operating system. So to write the programs on any Unix system, so IEEE developed a standard for Unix, which is called as a POSIX, that is Portable Operating System Interface, which is based on Unix. And in 1987, there was another system developed called Minix, that is a mini Unix. This is mainly used for educational purpose. It is very similar to Unix, include the POSIX support as well. Then Linux system was developed on Minix and originally supported various Minix features. Okay, so Linux, as you know, that it is open source. So there is something like a Red Hat Linux, and IBM came out with an Intel CPU 8286, and Bell Labs found an operating system for their computer center which is running on various batch jobs, so which was developed by the Bell in 1957. In 1969, Unix was developed, and two major versions of Unix developed, that is System 5 and from AT&T and BSD, as I have already shown in the previous slide. Then you have POSIX. In 1987, you got Minix and Linux, that is 1994, Red Hat Linux. That was an era. Then you have IRIX, that is Iridix Corporation. So that is about the history of operating system. So as I have just mentioned, the components of operating system, it is supporting process management, memory management, file management, IO management, network management. I'm not going to discuss each and everything, as we are aware of it and familiar with how maybe I'm discussing more on the process management. Okay, because we are using the various process, how the process is created, process creation, process deletion, and how we can have inter-process communication, and how the various kernel objects are used in the different process. See, in the particular course, maybe I am dealing with the process management mode. So what do you mean by memory management? All programs executed in RAM, as we know very well, operating system keeps track of RAM for allocation and deallocation. So whenever we are writing something, there has to be some memory reserve. So for example, I reserve some space, maybe int, when I say some data variable, int, double, whatever. Something like it will reserve, if it is a string, it will reserve for the character, what is the space for each one. Okay. So those things are taken care by your operating system. There is a memory management, there is an allocation. It needs to allocate. So if I am using some array, it is reserving certain set of what sort of an array I am using, whether it is a int array or a character array or whatever. It comes under your data types. So based on which you will reserve certain memory. There is a need of memory space. Also, you need some secondary memory storage. It's required for the application. And also the most important implementation of your memory management is managing your virtual memory. You must have heard about the paging, segmentation, etc. Maybe a little bit about the virtual concepts, virtual memories. What do you mean by virtual memory? I mean, within the given space, how you will be able to expand the memories, which comes under your memory management. Also, your the memory management is involved with the process isolation, atomic allocation and management, support for modular programming, protection and access control, as I've already discussed. So you can have some memory protections. I shouldn't directly access my system memory. There needs to be some protection. And also there is a need of long-term storage. So even though the power is off, we may have to save certain contents which needs to be there for a long time. Okay, that support must be there. So those things are done by the memory management. Okay, so now we shall see the kernel. Maybe you are familiar with, but still let us refresh. The kernel is the, say you have the software, the operating system software in the your main memory itself, part of it, and the space wherein you have the operating system, you call it as a kernel. And in kernel, there are two types. One is a monolithic and the one is a microkernel. So monolithic kernel is the one wherein whole set of the everything you have it in the all the operating system software which is loaded in the same space. Okay, it's a single program that contains all the code necessary to perform every kernel related task. It's everything. And this is quite faster, and it's a less software. The examples given are Windows, Unix, Linux, Solaris, Open Virtual Management System. Okay, but if there is any crash, because everything you have it in the same, if there is any system crash, maybe it crashes the whole. Okay, so that is a disadvantage. So supports monolithic kernel supports modularity. Modules can be statically linked during your compile time. Modularity means you can add certain modules, whichever the software which you need it, you can add it. You can dynamically load certain modules. Okay. You can load certain drivers, that is your loadable kernel modules. You can load certain kernel modules onto the system. So supposing I'm using, for example, I'm using the hardware which is ARM Cortex, for which I need a Keel software, which is a system for software. And it supports my IDE, so through which I can develop any code. There's a compiler because I'm writing a C, it's a Keel. It's embedded C code, and needs to execute on the hardware, but I'm writing on the system, on the desktop. So for which I'm using some device driver so that I can send my code, whatever the machine code, to the hardware. So I'm using some flash magic. It's a driver, okay, through which it's a serial communication. So through which I'm sending my whatever the data or the code through which I'm expecting the results on the hardware. So you can install certain any software which is needed for me to work. And I mean, you don't relate the one which I have given example with this. I mean here you can load any drivers onto the system, and also the modules which we are dynamically loading becomes part of the kernel in the monolithic kernel. Then another type of kernel is microkernel. Here you don't have everything in a single kernel space. Instead, only the relevant information you keep it in the main the kernel space, and the remaining you can have it in the main memory. Okay. The most fundamental of tasks are performed, such as being able to access some of the hardware, manage memory, coordinate message passing. You need to have message passing, because you don't have everything in a single the kernel space here. You keep whatever, only the relevant information, so which you need to pass the message with the other in case if you need so. So there is a some process of kernel are separated out and designated as servers, okay, in the microkernel. So you need to have inter-process communications needed between the servers, because they are meant for the different services. So the examples for microkernel are QNX, Minix, Symbian, Mac OS, etc. L4 Linux, etc. Whatever. Yeah. So when I talk about operating system concepts, first and foremost, we need to know what is a process. There's a process. So what is a process? Somebody, anybody can answer. What is a process? So far, for more than an hour, I was talking myself. What is a process?
A process is what you call a sequence of executing instructions.
Yeah. So it's a set of instruction. Any set of instruction. It's a process. In a process, have you studied about how the process is executing? That is, a process states. Means, what I mean here is, there is a process state diagram. When the process is created, there is a new process. So, process is set of instructions. These instructions are executed on the processor. So, the operating system is delivering, it is making that process to execute by the processor. Which I mean, there are some set of process who is getting a chance for the execution by the process. Which process is ready for the execution? Maybe you will have some set of queue. There is a ready state. So in a queue, you will align a set of process, which I mean they are ready for the execution. The next one is running, in a sense, which process has got the chance for executing? That is running. So in simple terms, we can say that there is a new ready state, running, and blocked. Supposing a process needs certain resources, could be your memory. Okay. But that memory may not be available for the time being. Okay. So then maybe based on whatever the different applications. So if that resource is not available for the process which is running, it can go to the blocked state until and unless the resource is available for the process to use. So that is blocked state. In any case, a process has to go through ready, running, and it need not go to block state always. Ready, running. In case if there is a need of resource, it goes to block. Otherwise, ready and running. If it is blocked, It cannot come back straight away to the running state. It has to pass through the ready state, then go to running. So this you need to understand very clearly. That is how the process executes. Anyway, there's one more chapter we are discussing only on the process control block, the different types of 3-state, 5-state, 6-state process. Okay. So also process control block. What is a process control block? Every process has got some certain process IDs. There is a name of the process. Name is given to the process, and it needs to have some program counter for that process. There is some stack so that you can save certain temporary data. So everything, there is a process control block. It controls the information pertaining to that process which is created. Means when a process is created, it needs to have the information related to that particular process, which is called as which is there in your process control block. And also in operating system, we need to know about the multitasking. If there is a sequential use, only one process is running in a system, I don't think I need any operating system. For example, say a simple processor, maybe 8051, you must have heard of. Maybe you not used in the lab, or some of you must have used some of the boards for your any project purpose. So in that particular board, maybe your PIC controller or 8051 controller, there is no operating system. Because, for example, I write some code, the program, to blink an LED, or maybe to turn on some peripheral to the port, which is connected, maybe my LCD to display something. So means there is a particular application I'm writing, and it is going in a sequential way. If there is any looping, it will go back and check if there are some functions related to that. So it's a simple way of executing. But when I'm talking about operating system, there is a concurrency involved. That is a parallelism. So the main role of operating system is it is switching between the different process, multi-processing. So we need to understand the multitasking or multiprocessing. At least two processes. When I say later, you will understand when we start writing any programming, minimum 2 tasks need to be there. There's no point in writing only simple code. I don't need any operating system for which. So you write a code with at least minimum 2 tasks. It switches between the 2 tasks. Who makes the switching between the tasks? So there are some certain issues, objects or the algorithm through which I make maybe simple terms. Maybe I round robin. It's a very basic scheduling algorithm which we use, as we are aware of it. So depending upon any number of process you have it will go in a round robin fashion. So what I mean here is we need to understand the multitasking. To do the multitasking, we have to understand the task scheduling. Okay, so task scheduling. What is a scheduler? How it is going to schedule it? What are the different scheduling algorithms are used? Okay. So task scheduling. So as I said, you have round robin scheduling, preemptive scheduling, maybe non-preemptive or cooperative scheduling. There are some simple scheduling algorithms are supported by the operating system which we have discussed, which we are going to discuss. I'm sorry. And we need to know what are the CPU bound task and the IO bound task. What is the difference between these? And set of algorithms used in the scheduling. When we talk about operating system, we need to understand these things. That is the process states, process control block, that is process management, multitasking, scheduling. What do you mean by task scheduling? Then the various algorithms used in the scheduling, and the difference between the CPU related and the IO related tasks. Okay. So this is your simple computer hardware and software structure. Maybe we'll elaborate more or we'll discuss more maybe later, but still let us see the briefing of this. So you have it's a software stack, I can say. You have application program. This is your software. And this is your hardware. Okay. So ultimately, the people, I mean, anyone knows that there is a software and the hardware. Okay. So in your software, have application program, utilities, and the operating system. Okay, everything is part of your software, which is there in your memory. And maybe we may have to have some IO device, device drivers as well, which I have not shown here. But when I talk about ARM Cortex processor, definitely I'm going to discuss on certain the device driver which we have to use, which can understand the particular device. Okay, coming to the hardware, you have execution hardware, there is a memory translation, and there is a system interconnect, and there is a IO device and networking, and you can have some the memory of your hardware. This I'm talking about your processor, right? Any system, maybe general purpose processor, you talk about Pentium, anything. Okay. So you will have some the hard disk or the disk which is involved with this part, and there is a processor. Processor has got these things in general, because this, whatever the topics, it's related to your general purpose operating system, the picture, because these topics are selected from the simple operating systems. Okay, operating system basics. I hope you got it. There is a software and the hardware, and what are the layers in the hardware and the software. Yeah, and also there are certain key interfaces in a typical computer system. So we have instruction set architecture, and application binary interface, and the application programming interface. Maybe you are very much familiar with the APIs and ISAs. Okay, so the ISA defines the something like it will convert your machine instructions to the so that it can computer can understand this. It's an interface. It's a boundary between your hardware and the software. Okay, it will make the particular software to, the hardware to understand the software. So both application programs and utilities may access the ISA. It's an interface. Okay. So far I have shown the layers. There is an interface between your hardware and the software. Okay. So both can access this directly. Then the application binary interface. It's a standard for binary portability across the programs. So this is the system call interface to the operating system and the hardware resources and the services available in a system. This comes next to that. Okay. I mean, I can say this comes just top of the hardware. Then you can have this ABI, something like your assemblers. So for example, I'm writing some assembly coding. So we can have for which we have ABI, through which it can communicate through your ISAs, so that converted into machine codes. Then I have some application program interface. So it will access to the hardware resources and services available in the system through the user ISA, supplemented with a high-level language. It's an supplementary tool which we have it with the language. You can have some APIs. So can you name any APIs, please? Hello? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you name any APIs? What is API? People talk about APIs, right?
Yes, ma'am. But most of these are not in the context of embedded. You can have an API to talk to databases or to the cloud or to anything, but usually APIs I have personally not seen in embedded.
This is in generic. I started with the general operating systems. You say, for example, I have a computer system, right? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
There is a hardware and there is a software. So you have various interfaces. So we are not talking about the embedded system. Can you give any APIs? Can you name any APIs? Yeah. There's so many students, right? Please respond. Hello? Should I call somebody or will you?
Ma'am, and if we are talking about APIs in general, then
Yes, in general, because I started with the embedded, but now I have talking about general.
yes, ma'am. So every organization, like even Google, has a lot of its API, like the Google Weather API, or even Twitter provides a lot of APIs for people to extract tweets and perform analysis on them. So these are some of the examples of API, and then there are some methods that are used, guidelines that are used to make APIs, such as the REST guidelines. So in general, I mean, I'm just talking about APIs.
Okay. What is the role of API? You can tell in your own words what you have understood. Anybody?
It's to let like services interact with each other, like instead of us having to explicitly do stuff.
Pardon?
It allows two different services or domains to interact. it takes care of a lot of redundant work which the programmer doesn't have to. Like, for example, like as somebody mentioned, in case of like APIs of popular companies like Twitter and everything, you can directly just call the API and it will do a lot of work and get the data directly, which the programmer doesn't have to do.
Okay, now I'm coming to embedded system. Maybe let us talk about mobiles. Can you give anything specific APIs which we are having in the mobile system?
Ma'am, if we are to talk about in the embedded scene, aren't drivers a type of API?
Pardon?
Aren't drivers that control the hardware a type of API?
Drivers?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh. Yeah, name anyone.
Anything like Bluetooth or like something which gives access to the cameras and something like that.
Then?
So in terms of embedded, anything which will give access to hardware, like for example, if you want to control your speakers and things like that.
Yes. Maybe I'm having some voice recording.
Yes.
Yeah, you have some APIs. There are so many, right? And people can give. So when you talk about mobile, there are so many APIs. You can give a list of APIs. What does it do actually? It's an interface. API is an interface. You tell me in your own words what you have understood with the API which we have it in our mobile system.
Now, in general, with mobiles, APIs are used so that we have, the programmer can write the same code and it will work on any mobile, regardless of whatever hardware is actually running the program. So,
those are something like open to, to any system, right?
I guess more specifically, I can say is that if you're writing a game, there are many mobiles that have for example, Power VR GPUs, or you have different Mali GPUs, whatever. So usually the programmer just writes it in OpenGL. OpenGL calls the API, and then the GPU handles whatever it handles, and it's rendered. So in that sense.
Okay. Any other?
Even things like USB connections to transfer data and things like that.
Yeah, something like a drivers. Any drivers which, say when I plug in, it will ask me, right, whether you are using for data transfer or whether it is using for charging, those things. Yeah, simple way. I hope you understood the basic need of operating system and the fundamentals. So let us summarize. Today we have seen what is an operating system, maybe some of the characteristics of embedded operating systems, and the objective of the operating system. Why do we need the operating system, and some of the types of operating systems, the kernel, whatever you call it as, means not the type of operating system. We spoke about the kernels. As we know that operating system it's a part of the memory. You say you have it in the memory, but you call it as a system software, and there is an application software. So the applications, the system software, wherever you have it, you call it as a kernel space. And the kernel, there are two types, monolithic and the microkernels. And also we have seen some of the, the role of the operating systems and the fundamental concepts, that is briefing about what is process. What we are going to study, that is what I mean here. The operating systems concepts like process control block, and the scheduling, multitasking, and we need to understand all these terms. Maybe that is, now we have just opened the door saying that, okay, these are the things which we are going to study. Okay, I'll stop here. If there are anything, I'm sorry, if anything to be asked, please, otherwise I'll leave.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I saw the references, and William Stallings operating system is uploaded there. But that is a very that's a general operating system book. Is there any specific that we are supposed to use for this class, specific to embedded systems, operating systems for embedded systems?
This is that book is for general operating, because when I am talking about real-time operating systems, there is no specific book as such. I'm referring the manual, but wherein they don't discuss on the theoretical concepts of those terms. To understand those theory, I'm referring the William Stallings, because the fundamental concept is the same. But when we talk about the real-time operating system on the hardware which we are using, straight away I give what is the function, and straight away you will be able to understand. So that is a reference book, please note.
Okay, ma'am. So there's no other book that we should look into?
No, there is one more book on ARM Cortex, which I think I have uploaded.
Yes.
I'll be sharing there is no specific book as such. That is an RTX manual for which the slides are sufficient, whatever I'm sharing. And maybe later on, I would like to share the book on FreeRTOS.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything? Okay then. So we'll meet in the next class.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.